Are the Labour Party turning a blind eye to the Pakistani rape gang cover-up? We know that Labour do not want a full national rape gang inquiry. GB News' Charlie Peters, along with independent investigators, expose exactly why we need one. So, get a load of this. Are grooming gangs a national problem?
That it covers the entire length of the nation, with over 50 different towns and cities affected in this crisis, from Plymouth right up to Carlisle, and particularly in the north of England. You see the intensity and the severity of the abuse perpetrated here.
So there we have it, OK? There have been rape gangs from Plymouth all the way up to Carlisle. This is a national problem. But were these groups linked? Because if they were, then local council investigations are not going to reveal the full scale of the problem.
Also produced a trafficking and network analysis showing for the first time how widespread the links were between abusers across the different towns and cities. People moving from North Yorkshire down to London, trafficking out of Oxfordshire, survivors being moved from Liverpool down to Plymouth. Widespread abuse, widespread links between organised criminal gangs.
So they're linked, aren't they? Council investigations, local regional investigations aren't going to cut it, OK? It's a national problem. How many people have been convicted? Well, apparently just 500 people since 2007. And what does that tell you? It tells you that there are clearly scores of predators from all around the country who went unpunished and could still be active today. How many people have been deported? 0 since 2011. 0. The Labour Party presumably knows all of this. But today, a spokesperson for the Prime Minister said it's being weaponised, that people are using the grooming gang issue to score political points. You know what's funny? They were asked who was scoring political points out of it, and they didn't have an answer. So there you go. I mean, is this actually what Prime Minister Keir Starmer thinks?
And when politicians, and I mean politicians, who sat in government for many years, are casual about honesty, decency, truth and the rule of law, calling for inquiries because they want to jump on a bandwagon of the far right.
Yeah, there you go. It's what he thinks, isn't it? He said it. And then there was this slip-up from Labour's Leader of the House of Commons, which she has somewhat apologised for.
I don't know whether you saw the documentary on Channel 4 about rape gangs over
No,
this.
we want to blow that little trumpet now, do we? Yeah, OK.
There was a real issue.
Let's get that dog whistle out, shall we? Yeah.
How could anybody have looked at the facts that I've just outlined above about where these grooming gangs are, how long they've been going on for, how interconnected they are, and then think that this is a far-right bandwagon or a political point-scoring issue? Labour are, in my view, hiding something. They use the language of demonisation to stop people calling for an inquiry. So I ask again, do you think the Labour government are turning a blind eye to the Pakistani rape gang cover-up? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We are, of course, have Esther Kraku, Emily Sheffield and Jonathan Liss. Thank you very much. Esther, I'll start with you on this. Look, some people out there have been posing the question, gosh, you know, are the government complicit in some kind of cover-up?
Well, this government has only been in power for 8-9 months. We have to remember that. The Tories could have called for a national inquiry. Yep. The Tories could have deported these people since 2011. The Tories could have actually given the victims justice, and they didn't. So any Tory MP that's saying anything about this needs to shut it immediately. The Labour government has inherited this problem, and they've handled it.
The Tories, loads of them were put behind bars.
Yeah, but they weren't deported. Many of them weren't deported.
They were put behind bars. A lot of them were
but they weren't,
so they couldn't.
Well,
they couldn't be deported.
No, but the Pakistani ones
I know quite
deported.
a lot about this topic, and the Conservatives put a huge number of them behind bars. Not enough, but a huge number.
Do you think Labour's complicit in the cover-up?
Well, why didn't they call for a national inquiry?
I don't understand why Labour isn't calling for a national inquiry, because new evidence is coming to light. Another thing that Labour hasn't done is that under Rishi Sunak, they were going to make sure that anyone convicted of these grooming gangs were not being let out after only 50% of their sentence. That is still happening. Labour has not moved that on, and they keep promising that they will, but they haven't. So even as we're speaking, the ones we have managed to put behind bars are being let out, having served only half their sentence.
Let's just think about the rhetoric, Jonathan. So we've had several instances. Keir Starmer's far-right bandwagon quote, the Lucy Powell issue, and then now, again, today, remarkable, a Prime Minister's spokesperson saying that people using this to point score politically and basically, again, minimising the actual issue. I mean, Labour must be aware of the facts that Charlie Peters and our other investigators compiled there about the scale of this problem, the interconnectedness of it. But why are they getting their language so wrong about this, do you think?
I think that there are two things in this, and two things can be true at the same time. This was a horrendous series of events, which we know a lot about, and some of it we may not know enough about yet. That is true. It is also true that there are some people who only care about this issue because it involves predominantly Pakistani men. And that, I'm afraid, is because there are people who would not care about it if it was predominantly white people. Well, I'm not saying...
But if you had white men from South Shields raping Pakistani women in Lahore, and Pakistani said we're concerned about this group of migrants overrepresented in mass rape and gang abuse of underage girls. What does that make them racist?
Patrick asked me a question about why Labour was making these comments, and I was answering it.
Why is it a problem to be concerned that this particular group of individuals are overrepresented in gang rapes?
I'm saying that people who generally often don't care about sexual abuse or child sexual abuse and don't believe victims.
Who is that?
There are some people on the fringes of the political spectrum who are only interested because of this issue. It's not controversial to say so. Now, on the subject of an inquiry...
Just to bring that, you're saying it's on the fringes. Why would Labour care about those people?
Those two people.
To go on radio, Lucy Powell, and say, bringing out that dog whistle again, that just seems... I mean, do you agree with this?
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Cities across Britain.
Yeah, look, I am on the subject of an inquiry. I have tended to listen to experts who say that we already had, obviously, the Alexis J inquiry, even though it didn't cover this in massive detail.
No, it really
and also the local inquiries. But if there is evidence,
I've read it, and it really.
Yeah, well, if a lot of survivors say that we need to have a national inquiry to uncover things that we haven't discovered, then I think that's appropriate. Fine.
I just feel as though we're all being asked to not believe what we keep hearing and seeing from Labour on this, which is that they keep putting out the odd thing like, it's a dog whistle, you've got a tiny little trumpet and you're blowing it there. You're just trying to whip up the far right. But then they keep telling us, we care about this issue so much, we take it so seriously. Hang on, do you honestly think that behind the scenes in Labour they do genuinely view this as some kind of fringe racist issue whipped up by the far right?
The only thing that makes me think they really don't want this grooming inquiry, because they know it's going to hit a lot of councils that are run by Labour, is that at this point it has reached quite a problem. It is, helping Reform probably in areas where Reform have just won a lot of council seats. So they really don't want a grooming inquiry, because at the end of the day, it's really not difficult to call an inquiry.
Well, the Reform didn't call for one in their manifesto.
Labour, I think, have called for, 22 inquiries since they came to power.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're worried about calling another inquiry or saving money.
But Emily, you know full well that inquiries are a fantastic way to kick issues into the long grass. And at the end of the 5 years, governments don't implement the agreement.
There's been lots of things that we should do this, we should do it within a year.
Yeah.
We should limit its scope. There are lots of ways to stop inquiries running on and on.
Let me just put this...
You can put guardrails in.
Let me just pop this to Esther before we move on to that continuing ongoing breaking news of the night. They could use things like Charlie Peters' latest thing there about literally drawing up the dots between the interconnectedness between these gangs. Saying from Plymouth to Carlisle.
Like cargo, literally sexual cargo.
Yeah, so it's a national picture, isn't it? It's a great opportunity for the Labour government to just look at that and go, right, OK, tell you what, national issue, national inquiry.
Of course, they could do that. But again, I mean, someone like Jess Phillips has been completely discredited on the issue. And like Emily said, it will probably dig up issues in the councils that they're struggling to hold on to. And I really don't understand the reluctance to actually listen to some of their own MPs. This is the thing. It's not like Labour doesn't have any
their own
backlash.
councils. Remember, Oldham asked Jess Phillips, actually, and she refused to turn up to a meeting They actually said, we didn't ask before. I think a couple of councillors had before. This time, the whole council was in agreement. Actually, this has got so big, we need an inquiry.
And she didn't go.
Well, yeah, not at the time, but not at the time. Right, OK, thank you for that.